What are you doing?
A magic trick. You ever seen a can defy gravity before?
No.
Whoa! Given how popular the MCU is, it probably comes as no surprise to everybody watching at home that Marvel has invested a considerable sum of money at creating an expansive portfolio of reference material for every actor who appears within it. Weirdly, one actor the studio hasn't felt the need to do this with is Paul Rudd, who people working for Marvel have openly admitted hasn't aged in like 30 fucking years.
Why has Marvel gathered huge portfolios of reference material for their actors?
Because actors die and get old, superheroes don't, and Marvel have got Marvel movies planned till about 2050. All this reference material as well is incredibly useful when they decide to de-age actors, which they've started doing more and more in recent movies.
They've done it quite a lot by this point, and it's getting to the point now where it's incredibly convincing.
It's almost seamless. I think the latest movie where it's used extensively is obviously Captain Marvel, where they de-age both Clark Gregg and Samuel L. Jackson. Other films where it's been used, obviously Ant-Man and the Wasp, they de-age, I think, Michael Douglas in the first Ant-Man, and then Michelle Pfeiffer in the second one, which is like amazing. There's also one of the Captain Americas where like Tony Stark's in it, Robert Downey Jr. gets de-aged.
You know, they say sarcasm is a metric for potential. If that's true, you'll be a great man someday. I'll get the bags.
So if we use Robert Downey Jr. as an example,
Yes.
Can they use any footage of him when he was younger, or is there something specific they have to look for?
Not really, no, which is why they have to have so much of it, because they want you to de-age like Robert Downey Jr.'s character by a certain amount. You need like reference footage, like specifically footage. You can use pictures for some of it, but you need footage of him in motion, so you can get like his entire face, and basically you create a mask of his face that you CGI onto his old man face. And for that, you need reference footage in motion from the same age. And for that particular scene, they use footage of Downey Jr. in a film from the 1980s called Tuff Turf, where he plays like, a scraggly-haired young teen.
How are you?
So that's why they've tried to compile as much footage as possible.
Yeah, because the more footage you have, the better the effect will look. And because Marvel's got that big dick Disney money, they can afford to stockpile as much fucking stock and reference footage as they need. Not to mention all the stuff they have from the movies 10 years ago. Because say they want to do a flashback to 10 years ago, a lot of the actors have aged quite a bit in that time. They've not aged like normal people, which we'll get to in a moment, but still, it's good to have that because they do a lot of digital nip-tucking in these movies, which is an element of the process that is less discussed because obviously it's about making the actors look younger, which a lot of them have written into their contracts and things like that. I think Tom Cruise is an actor famous for this, where not only does he have supposedly, because obviously he might sue the fuck out of us for saying this, but things in his contract that say, yeah, you have to make me look younger. He also has the power to veto lines in the script that refer to him as old. So The Mummy is the famous example of that. You can find behind the scenes shots of Tom Cruise where you can see that he looks good for a man in his 50s, but he looks pretty old. And then you compare it to The Mummy, where he's just this glistening Adonis.
Please.
Oh my God, Nick.
Chin.
It's clearly someone with a computer has made a few tweaks there.
Must be pretty good for the actors though, because that means they don't need to put in any effort. They just get it all CG'd onto them.
Well, they just turn up in a tracksuit and they just CGI, especially someone like Robert Downey. I know I feel like we're dunking on Robert Downey Jr. a little bit too hard, but I use him as the example because half the scenes he's in those movies, he's in a CGI Iron Man suit, so you literally only see this part of his face. And you'd think, yeah, maybe you can just turn up in a tracksuit or whatever, and that's no, you actually do have to put the fucking effort in. And so use Clark Gregg as an example, when they wanted to de-age him for Captain Marvel, he was like, oh, that's cool. Do I have to do anything? And I went, well, yeah. One, you need to hit the fucking gym, because CGI can only do so much, mate. You need to be physically in shape so you can more believably play a guy who's 20, 30 years younger than you are now. We'll sort the rest out. We'll fill your hairline back out and get rid of those wrinkles, but you hit that fucking gym. It's the same for Samuel L. Jackson. Obviously, the physicality of the role is something they can't do with CGI. So he did have to, physically get in shape. I think that's where a really stupid-looking wig, which Samuel L. Jackson apparently doesn't mind. Have you ever heard about this?
No.
Samuel L. Jackson, one of the few clauses he has written into his contract is that, one, he can play golf whenever he wants and the studio has to pay for it. Two, if his character has to wear a wig, he gets to pick it. Because he likes wearing stupid wigs, which is why he looks so dumb in Unbreakable.
Yeah.
To the really stupid hair he's got, Samuel L. Jackson picks it for himself. And apparently it goes back to Pulp Fiction, where in the original Pulp Fiction script, Jules is supposed to have an afro, and they sent, in Jackson's own words, some random white intern who had no idea what the fucking afro was, to like a wig store downtown. They came back with a jerry curl, and like apparently Quentin Tarantino was really annoyed about it and was yelling at this intern like, "No, go get me an afro." And then Sam Jackson put it on, looked in the mirror, and went, "No, this is Jules. I can make this work. I can make a man with this haircut the scariest motherfucker in this movie," and he pulls it off.
What? Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
So before we continue, Brad, what's your favourite bad Samuel L. Jackson haircut? 'Cause I'm gonna go straight for the jugular and say his haircut in the film Jumper, where he just has like a fucking circa 1980 action man buzz cut that's dyed bright white. He's got Gunther from Friends' hair in that movie, and it's so shit.
I do reckon I can top that.
Okay, go for it.
Have you ever seen the, is it Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children?
I have not seen this film. Describe the hairdo to me then.
It's like...
And also, as you're describing it in the background, have it slowly rise into frame so the audience can experience it as I do.
I think the best way I can describe it is Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future.
I thought you were going to say Uncle Fester then. Isn't that just Samuel L. Jackson's haircut in every other movie?
Yeah, it's like, it's just this ginormous, like, bushy white thing.
Just a big white dumb afro. Fair enough. Who's had more roles with bad hair? Is it Sam Jackson or Nick Cage? Because Nick Cage has some fucking terrible haircuts in his movie.
I mean, the one Con Air. Connor's got to come in.
Famous, when he steps out and it's just the wind blows through, like the shitty wig that he's wearing, like the fucking strands of dog hair he's got sellotape to his scalp. I don't think Nick Cage has the same rider in his films as... What are you laughing at? Oh God, oh no. What is that?
It's from that film.
Why is Sam Jackson just a floating skull man?
Everlasting life for me and a mint for you.
So Clark Gregg had to get into shape.
Yeah, and to continue dunking on Robert Downey Jr. just for, like, a few more minutes, he also, for that scene that's to de-age him, shaved off his iconic Tony Stark moustache. So it was the very last shot of the film they filmed, because they realised, like, well, if you try and CGI over facial hair, that's going to look stupid. What kind of a movie studio would be stupid enough to try and CGI over the actor's face and they've got facial hair in a multi-million-dollar tentpole film released in the summertime? God, I can't imagine. Like, no example springs to mind.
So, should we actually talk about Paul Rudd?
Oh yeah, sure, let's talk about Paul Rudd.
So, where does Paul Rudd come into this whole de-aging thing?
Well, according to Kevin Feige, I never know how to pronounce this dude's name, the guy with the hat who runs Marvel Studios, basically. In an interview with him, he says, yeah, we've got reference material for every actor in the MCU who's appeared in any prominent manner, except for Paul Rudd.
So why don't they need reference footage of Paul Rudd?
Because he hasn't fucking aged. Like, it's a meme at this point where you can like put in pictures or clips behind me, like a clip of him like 30 years ago. Like, he turned 50 a few weeks ago and he still looks like he's in his 30s. It's ridiculous.
Look, I want to say, I know you know a lot of super people, so...
Paul Rudd is 50?
Yes, he is. Like,
he looks better than I do.
He looks better than everyone watching this, I'll bet. Fucking, unless Paul was watching, in which case, hi Paul, how you doing? But it's crazy to think of like how little that man... He actually looks better now than he did like 20, 30 years ago. And like Kevin Feige, like, he acknowledges this and he says that like, none of the actors in the MCU have aged like normal people. They have all aged like fine fucking wine. Like Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, is the one he brings up because it was an interview about Ant-Man and the Wasp. Says like she still looked fucking phenomenal. But then he specifically singles out Paul Rudd and says like, even amongst all the actors we've got who've aged like fine fucking wine, Paul Rudd is an outlier and we don't understand it. And what makes this especially hilarious is when Paul Rudd was first cast in Ant-Man, all of his co-stars started giving him shit about the fact he'd not aged. And all of the people working behind it had like rumours about what he did. And I think there's a great quote from the director of Ant-Man and the Wasp who says, I think somewhere out there is a guy who's made a pact with Paul Rudd, some dark force. And then Michael Pena came up with the best one, which says, I think the guy's just got good genes. before adding that he looks like a fetus. so just think about it, it's like Paul Rudd gets dunked on the set of his own movies for not aging. And apparently he's really good natured about it, but he doesn't like discussing it.
Yeah.
And like so everyone
That sounds suspicious.
It does, because obviously everyone always asks, like, is it your skincare routine? Like, do you drink a lot of water? Do you have, like, is there a lotion that you use? And he just says, no, I just, like, I exercise and I eat right. And goes, yeah, so do a lot of people, mate, and we don't all look like ageless demigods. What the fuck's up? Tell me your secret, Paul. I want to make these videos forever.
Do you know what would age him?
What?
I think he'd age like 50 years if he had to go up Thanos' ass.
So as we just discussed, like, actors don't age like normal people, and Paul Rudd doesn't age like normal actors. But since Paul Rudd's the outlier, let's go back and talk about actors who haven't fucking aged. Because I love this phenomenon. It's like looking up actors and going, they're how old? Because before we recorded this video, I told you Paul Rudd was 50. And your exact response was, fuck off. And then Googled it and went, oh, he really is. It's like, I think Downey Jr.'s in his 50s. Like, Sam Jackson's 70. 70! And he's in, like, Captain Marvel having fist fights with pussycats. What the fuck, man? So I'm going to throw one out there that not a lot of people might be aware of. But when I heard about it, my reaction was similar to your one with Paul Rudd. I went, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
And it's George Chakiris from West Side Story. You can put a picture of him like behind me now, and I'm going to tell the audience, that man is over 80 years old. And I want you to just Google a photo and just put in George Chakiris 2018 or 2019, and then tell me if that man looks like he's in his fucking 80s. I'll wait. Because this reaction is going to be like, it's going to be the Paul Rudd one times 10.
No.
Yeah, there's the reaction. I fucking love that bit.
I thought I was getting younger pictures of him.
No, that's him now. That's a man who's in his 80s. No. Yeah, that's what good genes fucking look like. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Actors, tell us your secrets, other than like spending millions on fucking looking after yourself. It's crazy, isn't it? The thing is though, Brad, what would you rather age like? Would you rather age like Paul Rudd and look the same as you do now, or would you rather age like Matt LeBlanc and just get more and more refined as you get older? Because that's the choice you have, isn't it, when it comes to aging? You can either age gracefully or not fucking age. Like, Paul Rudd's obviously chosen the latter, Matt LeBlanc has gone for the former. And I think I go for the Matt LeBlanc because I think that I think I could pull it off. If I had the Mr. Fantastic, like, side tussles there, and like the rogue, like, white streak going through my hair, I think I could pull that shit off. I think Tom Jones is my favourite example of that, because he used to dye his hair when he was on stage, and then he took like a year-long break, and says, whenever I took a break, what I'd do is I'd shave all my hair off and just let it grow back through, and then one year it grew back, and it just had like that bit of salt and pepper going through, and I went, you know what? I can pull this off. And now he's on The Voice, and he's got like the pure white, just like fuzz on his head, and he just sits on the fucking throne next to Will.i.am going, yeah, I'm the fucking Don right here, motherfuckers. I love it. So good.